Good morning and welcome to our virtual press conference regarding the federal legislation to approve the Arizona water rights settlement, which has been introduced in the House and the Senate. My name is Mahayo Manus, and I serve as the Communication Director for the Office of the Speaker, the 25th Navajo Nation Council Speaker, Crystalline Curley. We want to welcome everybody to this press conference. Thank you for joining us today. On Monday, July 8th, 2024, Senator Mark Kelly and Representative Juan Ciscomani, in a momentous act of bipartisanship, introduced companion legislations S 4633 and HR 8940. They were joined by Senator Kristen Sinema, Congressman Greg Stanton, Congressman David Schweikert, and Congressman Raul Grijalva. If the legislation is approved by Congress, this historic settlement will bring to close almost a half century of litigation to the water rights in the Little Colorado River Basin and settle the Navajo Nation's substantial claims to the upper and lower basin of the Colorado River. By quieting these claims, the settlement will bring certainty to water rights all throughout the Colorado River Basin and will provide the Navajo Nation with the water security it needs for a permanent homeland in the Arizona portion of the Navajo Nation. Today, our Navajo Nation leaders will be making statements with regards to the settlement and legislation, and at the end of the hour, we will take questions. We want to just apologize for having some technical difficulties originally, but we were able to sort them out. And I'd like to welcome Navajo Nation President Dr. Boo Nygren to offer some comments. President Nygren.
Yarate, thank you, Mahayo. I'm Dr. Boo Nygren, President of the Navajo Nation. I stand before you today with Speaker Curley and the Navajo Nation Attorney General and other delegates on the line. I'm Tachini, born for Nada Tzozabashichin, Todachini Dashache, Nada Tzozadashanella. I want to begin by first expressing our deepest gratitude to our representatives in Washington who have made this historic and bipartisan water rights settlement legislation a reality. Special thanks to U.S. Senator Mark Kelly, a Democrat, Senator Kristen Sinema, an independent, and Congressman Juan Ciscomani, a Republican, and Paul Grijalva, as mentioned earlier. The tripartisan nature of this legislation underscores an importance and historic significance to the Native people of Northern Arizona. We could not have achieved this without the unwavering support of our representative. So I also want to thank Congressman Greg Stanton, another Democrat, and Congressman David Schweikert, another Republican. Your help has been immensely appreciated. We're working in engaging, productive discussions with other Arizona congressmen and are hopeful they will co-sponsor this crucial legislation. Unified support is essential to ensure the Navajo, the Hopi, the San Juan Southern Paiute people have the water they need to thrive, grow their economies, sustain their homelands for many generations to come. The word historic is often used lightly, but today it is truly fitting. The Northeastern Arizona Indian Water Rights Settlement Agreement is introduced yesterday. As mentioned earlier, it is a monumental achievement that addresses and resolves the most significant, outstanding water claims within Arizona and all of the Navajo Nation's claims to the water in the state. For decades, our Navajo people have lived without piped water in their homes, with many elders hauling water over 30 miles round trip. More than 30% of the homes on the Navajo Nation lack running water. This is unacceptable. No one in America should be denied access to water because of where they live. This settlement ensures that the Navajo people will have their rightful access to water, providing certainty for our homeland's future and equal opportunity for health and prosperity. This settlement includes claims to the upper basin of the Colorado River, lower basin of the Colorado River, Little Colorado River Basin, and the Gila River Basin. The settlement benefits. A settlement offers 6 crucial benefits that litigation does not: access to meaningful and reliable upper basin Colorado River water, access to 4th priority lower Colorado River water, the ability to use our Arizona water in New Mexico and Utah, move it to Arizona for use, the ability to use upper basin Colorado River water in the Navajo Nation lower basin communities, and vice versa. Almost $5 billion in water delivery infrastructure, an alternative source to clean drinking water in our Arizona communities currently reliant on groundwater. Our Navajo Nation negotiation team and many of our delegates conducted more than 40 public meetings, numerous KTNN forums to discuss water rights and the settlement. The Navajo, Hopi, and San Juan Southern Paiute councils each approved the settlement unanimously with resolutions and support from various agency councils and chapters. Some key components of the settlement. This settlement will secure 44,700 acre feet of Arizona Upper Basin and Colorado River water, which is 90% of Arizona's water basin allocation. 3,600 acre feet of fourth priority water, Basin Colorado River, LCR water reaching the Navajo reservation, estimated 120 acre feet of water, all Navajo aquifer underlying the Navajo reservation with a pumping limit of 8,400 acre feet of water, all Coconino aquifer water underlying the Navajo reservation. Infrastructure and funding. The settlement will fund the construction of substantial pipelines and water delivery infrastructure, primarily on the Navajo Nation, including the Inaba Pipeline, the Southwest Navajo Regional Project, the Ganado Area Project, the Code Talker Lateral, the Black Mesa Project, the Four Corners Project, the Kayenta Area Project, the Lupton Area Project, the Local Groundwater Project. The $5 billion funding will also support renewable energy projects, a Navajo Agriculture Conservation Fund, OMNR, and Lower Basin Colorado River Water Acquisition Fund. In conclusion, I just want to say thank you for everyone on the line and listening. Since 2012, each administration has strived to bring the settlement parties back together. Many doubted it could be done. With this leadership and the council support and everyone involved, we got it done. Immensely proud we have reached a settlement among the 3 Northern Arizona tribes, the federal government, the state of Arizona, several cities, and individual parties. Through communication, collaboration, we now take this settlement to Congress, where hearings will soon be scheduled. The Navajo people can be proud of the dedicated efforts that brought us to this historic moment and what lies ahead. In conclusion, I just want to say thank you to the 25th Navajo Nation Council, the Hopi leadership, the San Juan Southern Paiute leadership as well. And on behalf of my administration, I just want to say thank you for all parties involved, all the attorneys and all the scientists, the hydrologists, everyone from their kids, letting their families be a part of this discussion as well. So thank you so much, and I look forward to taking some questions later. Yeah.
Thank you, President Nygren. And we also want to thank the Office of the President and the Vice President for their continued partnership in getting this legislation to where we are today. I'd also like to thank the Water Rights Commission for their participation and efforts in this. I'd like to now have Navajo Nation Speaker Crystalline Curley offer some comments. Speaker?
Yate adet daisnot gishik she Crystalline Curley nishya. Ado senjikine nishle tko head lini bashichin kia ani dashiche do ziltka kia ani dashinale what's mato asan nishle. Ado nile tohan holy head net ASECA adet nasha. And this morning, welcome to all of our listeners, and thank you, President Nygren, for that introduction and the purpose of our Northeastern Arizona water rights settlement. And we want to say thank you to all of our listeners and our Attorney General, Ms. Ethel Branch, and also our water rights negotiation team that is comprised of many of our Arizona Council delegates of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. And we also want to say thank you to our water rights negotiation team and our water rights commission. And thank you, most in all, thank you to U.S. Congressman Mr. Mark Kelly and also Congressman Ciscomani. And this day could not have been possible without our congressional leaders today. And as the Speaker of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, I commend our congressional leaders and our Navajo Nation leadership for getting this far. And it has been a long road of many good negotiations, many attempts to secure our water claims within the state of Arizona. And since as a child, living without running water or plumbing within the rural areas of Fish Point, Arizona, near Salina, Cottonwood, Blue Gap, Touchy area, it warms my heart to know that we could be able to secure water for our future generation and for our elders to finally see water and to finally protect our water. And through many of our teachings as Navajo people, we say that to'ebe ina, meaning that water is life. Water is what sustains our livelihoods. It is the foundations of our homes. And as a mother, it gives me great pleasure to know that within the next 100 years, 200 years, my children and my grandchildren, my future great grandchildren will be able to have that sustainability, being able to have bringing water to drink, safe drinking water. And throughout the whole pandemic, that within the past 3 years, we lost many of our Navajo people just due to no access to clean water, no access to plumbing. And many of our Navajo families, at least over 30%, still continue to live without safe drinking water or plumbing. So it was a great opportunity here in this day and time to claim what is ours as Navajo people, our elders. And I speak of this reflection of my own teaching within a traditional home of a Hogan. And we were taught as children to protect our natural elements of our Mother Earth. And water is essential to every living thing that we possess in the Navajo way of culture, our philosophy in life. And so it's really great to know that our congressional leaders saw this opportunity to provide the claims that is necessary for us to thrive in the future. And this is the first time that the Navajo Nation of this scale is bringing a water rights settlement to Congress. And historically, this will be one of the biggest water rights settlements in history and U.S. history. And it's very unfortunate to say that the Navajo people are one of the very last tribes to bring this to the federal level, meaning that just an analogy that we're the last ones in line to hold our empty cup of water to come to Congress and say, now give us what we deserve and what is rightfully ours. And we also want to say thank you to all of the tribal leaders that came to this same fundamental priority together. We want to say thank you to the Hopi tribe and also the Southern San Juan Paiute tribe for finally coming together as three biggest nations within Northern Arizona, to say that we stand here together because not only is this for the present, but this is for the future. So we urge our congressional leaders, we urge our President Biden, this administration, to make this a priority. And we may be late in the congressional season, but water, being able to have safe drinking water, being able to have access to our claims shouldn't have a timeline. And the action is now, and we call on to our congressional leaders to stand behind us for your support. And also to our Navajo people, continue to pray for this journey that we have ahead of us. And we stand united, and as the 25th Navajo Nation Council, we stand together. And 2 months ago, in the month of May 2024, in this very own home of our council chamber, the water rights settlement went through with unanimous support, meaning that all of our council delegates within the 24 regions of our Navajo Nation stood together and said, this is a priority and this is what we want to work on. We want to bring water back to our people in terms of water infrastructure, in terms of better healthcare, in terms of economic development. So we want to thank our congressional leaders and our senators for making this priority this next coming months. And we are prepared as Navajo people to join that fight to claim what is ours. And for our Navajo people that are listening online and to our tribal communities, the time is now. And let's work together. Let's pray together. Let's work together to provide water for our families and our future grandchildren and for our nation. Again, we want to say thank you on behalf of the 25th Navajo Nation to our federal leaders for standing behind us. And we welcome this journey with much prayers and positive thoughts all the way to Washington, D.C. And may God bless you all, and also may God bless the Navajo Nation.
Thank you, Speaker Curley. We appreciate those good words in regards to the settlement. As Speaker Curley has mentioned, the settlement has been a priority for the Navajo Nation Council. And the Speaker, like many other Navajo Nation leaders across the nation, have grown up living without water. And this legislation is a long time coming, and many of our leaders will tell you this. We know that some of our elders have lived their whole life without never knowing the luxury of turning on a faucet and receiving running water. And so our people are looking forward to this settlement and to being able to be afforded the infrastructure to provide running water. So at this time, I'd like to welcome our Council Delegate Shauna Ann Claw, who represents the Chinle chapter. Delegate Claw.
Good morning, Doyat et Anotko. And I want to say hello to all of my relatives and those that are watching our live stream. My name is Shauna Ann Claw, and I'm the council delegate for Chinle. And on behalf of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, I want to say thank you to all those that made this process a very rewarding one for the entire Navajo Nation. I also want to thank all of the leaders and the dignitaries that came together from the two tribes so that they could join us in this united front. This was a long, arduous task. We started with the water rights negotiation team, and there were several council delegates who dedicated every Sunday to work with the water rights commissioners, as well as the Department of Justice Water Rights Unit, as well as Madam AG, the OPVP, and also for our subject matter experts. So I want to thank everyone who gave their time to ensure that a lot of the information that we gave was accurate. There was data that was infused into it, and that was what is being presented to Congress. We also want to thank our congressional members who are supporting the Navajo Nation, as well as the state of New Mexico. So we have dual water rights that are going into Congress in hopes of securing funding. And so we also want to thank all of those who were part of the process. We did make our efforts known when we traveled to Washington, D.C., and we were very thankful to this conclusion that it is now the time to fight for our water rights. With COVID hitting the Navajo Nation, many of our families perished because they were not able to maintain the basic sanitation needs. We also have economic development that needs to happen here on the Navajo Nation. Ada nihitsorizin disa hala etho innata din no. Ada biyin dobitsorizin dahalo. Oko ekot a dineta nigle. Ada nihito tho nihitsala. Ako bansi kesto beneche ya nihitsil ko et. Ada che ba hensen. Hala diyin de neshi nikides in. Ako beneche and de deshni. So I just want to say thank you to the holy people and those that continue to protect the land. We did also go out and do public hearings within our communities. We did hear the concerns of our people. Many of them are still advocating for water quality. Many of them continue to live off the land and to provide for their livestock. And although we know that in the United States, they only look at the municipal part of it, but water has always been a part of our culture, our livelihood, and our basic way of life. I also want to thank our leadership, our Navajo Nation President, Dr. NYGREN, our Chief Justice, Joanne Jane, and our Speaker, Honorable Crystalline Curley, for the leadership, and then also to our Madam AG for being the champions of this legislation. We give our prayers to our congressional people. This bipartisan strategy of implementing water rights into a settlement and on also securing the infrastructure funds is direly needed. So I just wanted to express my thanks. And then also I am the council delegate representing Chinle chapter. We are in the Upper Basin. And so even within my community, water is direly needed. We do need it for infrastructure. And then we also have our schools. So a lot of government entities within the community of Chinle. And I'm just here to support the leadership and then also to plead with our people. So our prayers will uplift our nation, and with that, we will remain strong and we will remain vigilant for our water rights. Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak, and thank you to our Navajo Nation people for your continued support and prayers.
Thank you, Delegate Claw, for those words. We're very grateful to have you here. And as we had stated, this legislation, this water rights element, has been a top priority for the Navajo Nation Council. Delegate Claw did mention that the pandemic really exacerbated, some of the disparities that exist in terms of infrastructure on the Navajo Nation. And so we're really looking forward to having this water rights settlement implemented. So right now I'd like to bring on our council delegate from Twana Nestize, Council Delegate Otto So. Delegate? Okay. I'm sorry. I think that we're having some technical difficulties currently. Sorry about that, Delegate. So, but I believe that his mic was muted. So we're going to come back to Delegate. We appreciate his time being here. But right now, I'd like to welcome. I'd like to welcome. Actually, I think we do have Delegate So's microphone sorted out. We're going to cut back to Delegate. So thank you, and thank you for being patient with any of these technical difficulties we have. It's just a part of the process. But today we had a couple of them. So Delegate So, are we ready to go ahead and have you deliver your words? Okay. Okay. Sorry, sir. Oh, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna have to fix his mic. So sorry about that. But at this point, we're gonna go ahead and welcome the Navajo Water Rights Commission Chairwoman, Jolynn Ashley. So Jolynn, please go ahead and give us some words in regards to the settlement.
Ahiahat Mahayo and Ahiahat Yate Bina. Good morning to the great Navajo Nation. I'm very pleased to be on this public outreach and just press release with regards to where we're at as a nation. The Navajo Nation Water Rights Commission, I'm currently the Western Agency Commissioner, also the presiding chair for the Navajo Nation Water Rights Commission. I represent Coppermine, Coppermine chapter. Kisani Ishla Tutnazani Bashishchin Bipatoni Dashate Ki Ani Dashanella. And I am just very, very grateful that we are at this point, and very grateful to the leadership that we've had by our president, Dr. Nygren, our speaker, Madam Speaker Curley, the 25th Navajo Nation Council, and just the leadership by our own Navajo Nation Water Rights Unit from the Department of Justice, the Navajo Nation Water Rights Management Branch. You know, the purpose and focus of the Navajo Nation Water Rights Commission is to vigorously pursue and secure and protect our water rights for the Navajo Nation. And we are continually, day by day, as you've heard from folks that had just spoken, to do that work. And I would like to proudly say that the Navajo Nation is committed to safeguarding a permanent homeland for the Diné and preserving the Navajo way of life. And this settlement helps close the severe equity gap that's been, that we experience day to day within the Navajo communities. And our work that is ongoing right now will ensure to our Navajo families that we will have equal access to safe drinking water. And I think that that's been a key message that we would like to send to our congressional, federal elected officials to ensure that, the bill that has been dropped, the legislation that will be moving forward will get swiftly passed through all the different committees, get swiftly passed so that when it comes back to our people, we can continue to work on that. And part of the uh, Navajo Nation Water Rights Commission is to ensure that we're out there conducting public education and outreach. And we will continue to do that. We will continue to do social outreach through social media, KTNN, also out in the public as far as public awareness, where the bill is, what the bill states, technical aspects. There's a lot that's encased in this bill that will move this forward. And so I would just like to make sure that, our message from the commission is very clear that, public education and outreach will continue, and that I'm very pleased to be working with the Navajo Nation legal and technical team, which will be out there as well, along with our delegates who sit on the negotiation team. And we look forward to the full support from Congress to support the Navajo Nation, the Hopi tribe, and the Southern San Juan Paiute in this effort as we move towards securing and ensuring that we have 100 years out for water, safe drinking water for our people, and continue to in in enrich our Navajo people to securing their livelihood on our homeland and ensuring that we do have a permanent homeland. And I believe that this settlement offers that to our Navajo Nation people for both the opportunity for growth and economic prosperity, and a pathway home for our children and our grandchildren and in generations to come as we build out the great Navajo Nation. And I just want to say thank you to our team, thank you to our Navajo leadership, and thank you to the Congress beforehand as we move this forward. And it's just very moving that we're all together moving this forward. And I just commend our Navajo Nation employees, legal and technical folks, our delegates, that we have this capacity to move forward. And again, my name is Jolyn Ashley. I'm the chair for the Navajo Nation Water Rights Commission. I represent Western Agency, and I know my relatives and folks out at Coppermine are going to be very grateful once this comes to fruition. So, and thank you for the time, and go out and support this effort. Back to you, Mahayo. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Ashley. Thank you for those great words. At this time, we'd like to welcome Council Delegate Carl Slater. Delegate?
Thanks, Mahayo. Yat Edo Shidane, Adona and Shlanagi Eke Ani, She Sontane Bashichin, Senajini Dashiche, do Sontane Dashanella, Senek Anna Dentna Shah. My name's Carl Slater. I'm Ki'ani, born for the Jewish people, and I participated in this whole endeavor as a representative of Upper Basin interests with my colleague Shanilla Delegate Claw. And I'd like to thank Senators Kelly and Sinema and Representatives Ciscomani, Stanton, Schweikert, and Grijalva for introducing this legislation. This is going to be an incredible step forward to ensure that the Navajo Nation and the Navajo people, our Diné, have a forever homeland. And that's something that we're consecrated to be here by our holy people, our Dian Diné, and we have an obligation to continue to steward and maintain this land, including its water resources. Throughout the history of this country, the federal government has invested in the development of water resources and access for all sorts of communities off the Navajo Nation and off Indian lands. And this is an incredible opportunity for the federal government and state parties and our tribal partners to make that same sort of investment into tribal water infrastructure so that our Navajo people have that forever homeland. In my district, which includes Round Rock, Rock Point, Lukachukai, Saley Wheatfields, Black Rock, and Rough Rock chapters, we've been trying to develop simple agriculture and economic development projects that will provide just basic necessities, butter, eggs, milk, local stores, local access to gas, so you don't have to travel hours or dozens and dozens of miles away just to access basic necessities. And we're straining the existing groundwater resources that exist within our district. And it's very difficult to pursue economic development projects in addition to other public government projects. We have many schools, we have Diné College in our district. All of these require water resources. And what we need is this settlement in order to ensure that our people have access to education, access to economic development and jobs and a livelihood so that we can continue to steward and maintain these lands. The pandemic showed us that we're in a very precarious position when it comes to food access and food security. And we can't rely solely on the groundwater resources and just the rains that the nation receives to produce agriculture on Navajo. We have been farmers and ranchers forever, and we know how to use water in our homelands to protect and support our families and maintain our ceremonial ways of life. We need to grow these plants. They're our medicine. We need to support our animals, provide them water. They're our medicine too. So all of these things come together in this settlement to help create what I think will be a beautiful future for our Navajo people. And again, I just want to thank the members in Congress. To me, this is not a partisan issue. We've seen bipartisan support in this issue, but really, this is about supporting the everyday necessities of American citizens. Navajo people, San Juan Southern Paiute people, Hopi people, are all American citizens and have the right to a roof over their head and clean water coming out of their taps. So, yahet to them. And just in closing, I want to say yahet to our Attorney General Ethel Branch, to our Assistant Attorney General Michelle Espino, and then, of course, to our Water Rights Commission Chair Jolynn Ashley, and our Navajo Nation leadership, Speaker Curley and President Nygren. Thank you very much, Mahayo, and I'll hand the virtual gavel back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Delegate Slater. And at this time, we are wanting to afford some time to Council Delegate Odo So from the Twinanes chapter. Delegate?
Good morning. Benana Adi is not Ago. Hikodo Ashinto To Be Sadit Ahigi Do Be Ede Yagi Yakudo Nasbi Itni A Ye who want a day who want Washington. Ade Dashinto not Ani Na the Ha Anda Kaigi the Hande Dixozo Nas Nasi Dasni Do Anda Ade Yat the Yego Ba Nikitajo do Achon in Lini Kodope the Nit in Aje. Hala Yada Shinto could need never care of card and never care of card dice Aje. Not one lean beverage and hold it on the idea. Dashinto the torture your yin that skin stone that I don't believe that Lado I don't the art which. What I show your ego, be in not ye, they your sin or torture babin not this thing equal never care but the next sneak I don't that could ozay I don't that bayots in lean could base like that it go babin not a day or a year who watch a day yeah ako ba ne hit la hajo da jing so not ani large what ya yin dashnish I don't that could never Washington lean could Gweltin da has arje the gadit ahitso has arje Department of Justice adon dan the Water Rights Commission benan stashin so da yilla aro aslo e bishmas an question ego aslo hot ego hot ka ade hot an yadil tiko adon that o den ta hata hisso de ade bilchi yadil tio hot ya hot be dashin so na hat abts aden that it ya nas bita ilni akonde igisi epen nege ya chon in lini nasi khade shi nas not inhi na not inhi de igisi ton leni bad dil tslok to ba hadla dolle khala ya ad inda ya hidna ke idole do biado khawat zode na shago ton nes dizgi biad ad ya na shinto nen lin ati tonde yedo which what abe na ye te yosin tora den leader na gloshi don't have the whole one down there go tora den has and sin da shi che shinto go ya bena nish yosin hot ego hadishi ya dina tos na yijaho di tobanal tos adman yadil kitchen nigo ade Yes, or at the Yegon, hard and nasty. I added with her. Nzadi dots in Chinego, I had to zine Ashinsago. This is about 1979 78. And a bag of my grandfather, late Emmett Saul. This was unbelievable bag, but Adi Hatahushi, La Ade, Aden Hinant, Aye Yada Kito, Benahat Abis Lago at Naya. Hot ever go ade hot even nanish de yosen neko but ban hit a jodo and yad ekon hata do edit or niko a slat the maid the question slanani yago peso the ade hot hope ni touch it that is ade be hana hato niko ade be ni et will ni ya answer is that all this what oba hat is to not I'm seeing it so the hand so down so
Thank you, Delegate. So we appreciate it. Appreciate those great words. At this time, we'd like to welcome Jason John, the Director of the Navajo Department of Water Resources. Is Jason with us? Okay. If Jason isn't here, I'd like to welcome the Attorney General of the Navajo Nation, Ethel Branch.
Hi, Yat-A everyone. It's so great to be here with all of you. And of course, incredible to be in this moment right now. So thankful to Senator Mark Kelly and Representative Juan Ciscomani from Arizona, and to all the members of the Arizona delegation who have signed on in support, Representative Stanton, Representative Schweikert, Representative Grijalva, and we are very much looking forward to more of the Arizona delegation stepping forward and helping to secure the Navajo Nation, Hopi Tribe, and San Juan Southern Paiute tribes' water future and water security for all of Arizona. As many of you know, the nation has a substantial water claim to the upper basin and the lower basin in Arizona. And of course, the Hopi tribe has a substantial claim as well. And San Juan Southern Paiute has its homeland located in the same region as the nation. And so we're very excited about this. And this is also the opportunity for San Juan Southern Paiute to have its original reservation recognized by Congress. And so this is just an incredible moment. We've never seen a water settlement this size before. And I come from a water hauling family. I grew up without running water. I know what it's like to share the same bath water with your entire household. And it was always just shocking to me to make that transition, living right on the border of the reservation, traveling to town to hang out with my family members who had access to running water, and to see the stark contrast in the luxuries that they had that I didn't have just because I lived on the other side of an artificial boundary line. And so I'm super excited about what this will mean for our people. My mother still lives in my childhood home, and she continues to haul water. She's 78 years old, and she's still out there wrestling with water barrels to bring water to her livestock. She doesn't want to give up the traditional way of life. And many of our elders are in the same position. All of our neighbors are, elderly, mostly elderly women over the age of 70 who are hauling water on a regular basis just to support their livestock and their household water needs. And additionally, having to buy bottled water in town, or worse, drinking from wells that are unregulated, some of which have uranium contamination, arsenic contamination. So I'm just really, really excited about the health benefits that this will bring to our communities, and to the assurance that, as the drought intensifies in the Southwest, that the Navajo people will continue to have streaming access to water, and that the cost of water for our people will be more on par with people who live off reservation. There won't be the high gas costs of driving 30 to 40 miles just to get water for your household on a regular basis. So I'm looking forward to the equity that this will usher into the nation's people in the Arizona portion of our homeland, and I'm very hopeful for what this means for our people in terms of assuring the permanency of our homeland now and into the future forever. We must have water to sustain life in our homeland, and that's what this settlement is bringing to us. It's giving us the flexibility that we need to be able to move our water from the upper basin in Arizona to the lower basin and vice versa. It's essentially giving the opportunity to lift these artificial state boundaries and basin boundaries. It will allow us to divert our Arizona water in New Mexico and run it down the Navajo Gallup water supply line, bring it to our Arizona communities that are closer to that point than they are to Lake Powell. It will allow us to divert water in Utah and bring it south to Kayenta. And so that opens up so much opportunity, not only for access and health in our community, but also in terms of economic development and growth. So I'm very, very excited for this, and so thankful to the senators and the representatives who have joined in support in this initial sponsorship and co-sponsorship. And I'm so excited for what this could mean for our people and our future as a nation. Without water, you can't do nation building. And there's so much nation building that is needed to bring the nation, the Navajo Nation, into the 21st century and to allow for the same equal opportunities here in our homeland that exist in the jurisdictions surrounding us. And as the original peoples of this land, it is very important that we have the same opportunities as our neighbors do for economic opportunity, growth, health, and welfare in our homeland. So thank you so much, Mahayo, for walking us through this. And I think we'll go ahead and open things up to the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam AG. We really appreciate your participation here and all your efforts with the team in bringing this settlement forward. At this time, we'd like to open it up to our press and media who are here and would like to ask questions. So I think that we can go ahead and have our first reporter brought into the stream. Is that good, Kevin? Otherwise, I do have some questions that I can pose. So, okay, this is the first question. Go ahead. This question is from Krista Allen of the Navajo Times. So here's Krista's first question. Just give me a second here. Just queuing it up. But thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for following the live. So definitely like to have it, everyone who's joining. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and cut to a question that was sent to us via text. This is from Noel Smith with Inside Climate News. Okay, is there a preliminary water infrastructure plan in place ready to consider by the Navajo leadership if federal officials approve the bill? So we have that question posed, and would any of our leaders or maybe Madam AG want to answer that question? I can repeat the question if you would like.
Please repeat it.
Okay, let me go ahead and repeat that question very quickly here. The question is, this is from Noel Smith with Inside Climate News. Is there a preliminary water infrastructure plan in place ready to consider by the Navajo leadership if the federal officials approve the bill?
Hi, yes, the nation does have a very extensive water development plan, and really the settlement just provides funding to actualize a substantial portion of that. If you have reviewed any of the material that we've provided at public information sessions or council sessions, you'll see the NTUA global water supply map. That's the vision. And there's been a lot of decades of technical work that go into those plans and that we're relying on as we developed the projects that we put forth for funding to Congress. Those are not all of the projects that we need or envision having for the future, but it is a substantial component of them in the Arizona portion of the nation. And so in the event that we don't get the full $5 billion worth of funding, we will be able to pull back on some of those plans. But we really need all $5 billion worth of funding just to put in place sort of the foundational infrastructure that's needed to do the bulk water supply delivery to communities, large population communities on the nation in Arizona that need that water. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam AG. And at this time, I would like to have Speaker Crystalline Curley also respond to the same question. Speaker?
Thank you, Mahayo, and thank you, Noel, for that question. So in terms of the Pacific Water Infrastructure Plan, it is outlined in the water settlement itself. As Attorney General did mention, it will have a price tag of $5 billion, but overall the nation's access to safe, clean drinking water will exceed over $5 billion. And within the past 2 decades, the Navajo Nation also contributed itself of its own general fund monies to invest in our own water infrastructure. So just gathering the numbers from the past recent years, it is nearly $1 billion that the Navajo Nation that continues to allocate and invest in water infrastructure. And those are through NTUA and also Navajo Nation Water Department of Water Resources that has those compiled listing, and also just through the ARPA funding as well. The nation continues to invest a lot of those dollars, ARPA dollars, back into water infrastructure, just showing the need that this is just an everyday human rights issue to our people being able to have access to water. So there are existing plans that have already been placed, and they just been waiting for the right opportunity for, just the cost of the price tag is well over $5 billion. So just looking at the infrastructure, passing this bill would be crucial just due to the need that is out there on our Navajo Nation.
Thank you, Speaker. I appreciate that answer to that question. And again, that was a question that was posed by Noel Smith. We're going to move on to this next question. And again, this is a question from the Navajo Times from Krista Allen. We were trying to queue it up earlier, but we have it all ready to go here. Now, Krista Allen from the Navajo Times, editor of the Navajo Times, says, "Well, all this sounds great, and as you say, historic. Many Navajo people in Arizona, as well as in Utah and New Mexico, seem to not understand the importance of this settlement. Assuming it's approved, how does the tribe plan to make life much easier with this historic settlement in terms of making the process so easy that when a Navajo applies for a home site lease, water is automatically included. And realistically speaking, how does the tribe plan to convince Navajo people that it's okay to cut a pipeline through their home site leases and grazing areas? How long will it take to build the necessary infrastructure for water to begin flowing to 45 Navajo communities? Now, this question seems to have about 3 parts to it. We welcome any of our leaders to go ahead and respond to it, and I can repeat any part of the question. I'm going to go ahead and go to President Dr. Bu Nygren. President?
Hello, Yate. That's a great question from the Navajo Times. Krista, thank you for that question, because I know that one of the things that we've really tried to focus on is improving the processes here internally. I know that when it comes down to dollars that we've received from the New Mexico settlement, from the Utah settlement, we are working on those improvements to actually get pipelines in the ground. And so far, we've really, there's pipelines that are currently being put in the ground at the moment. But when this settlement does go through, the $5 billion and all those projects that were mentioned, that's another tremendous amount of projects that we want. But as Speaker Curley and Madam AG mentioned earlier, is that we're really trying to secure as much dollars as we can, as $5 billion with the water quantity amounts that we want. And then from there, at least we've secured that, and that we've taken that off the table so that in the future, people don't try to take it from us. It's better to make sure that we've done what we've done on the New Mexico side in the 2000s, and then a couple of years ago on the Utah side. And now if this goes through Congress, we nail down exactly how much water belongs to us. And then on the other side, when it comes to our home site leases and people considering if they want water lines delivered through their home site lease, that's going to be another question that I think every pipeline that's being taken through the nation, they really try to work with the grazing permit holders. And then at the same time, if the families do want to get water, they should have access to a lot of that water that's available as well too. Again, it's going to be a full force coordination, as AG mentioned earlier. NTOA has done some of their assessments. IHS has done some of their assessments. And I think it comes down to global water planning for the entire nation. There's 3 different states, 27,000 square miles. And one of the things that's interesting about this legislation that we're trying to push through Congress is to be able to push upper basin and lower basin waters where they need to go anywhere on the nation. And that's really going to help us develop a lot of the water infrastructure, because on the New Mexico water rights legislation, it's hard to push water from New Mexico to Arizona because there's a lot of stipulations involved. But really being ambitious on the Arizona side to be able to push water around anywhere on the nation, which is, I think that it's going to make life a lot easier. But again, back to the basic fundamental question you asked.
Looks like we're having a little bit of difficulties. I think President did answer that question, but it looks like he got cut off. So I'm going to go ahead and refer this or have the Attorney General answer the question as well. She had offered to offer an answer. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, certainly there are some realities that we will be facing in terms of manpower, whether that's the nation's own water technical staff or the construction teams to build these projects. So things are not going to happen overnight, certainly. These are substantial, massive infrastructure development undertakings that will be funded by the $5 billion. And there are steps along the way. As Navajo Times indicated, there will be the need to put in pipeline infrastructure that will run through grazing lands. But that's something that the nation does regularly. This isn't something new. It's not impossible. So we'll continue to move forward with these development projects the same way that we've been doing for any number of years to put in place the existing water delivery infrastructure that we have now. So I have total confidence in the nation's ability to move forward with these projects once we receive the $5 billion worth of funding. Again, these are large, substantial projects, so it's not going to be immediate and overnight. But and the other thing is, it really depends on which component you're talking about. There are 9 different major projects that are associated with this settlement, and each of them is unique. And is going to have different challenges, different costs, different manpower needs, different technical needs. So it really depends on which aspect of the settlement you're talking about in terms of what those complexities and challenges will be. But without this funding, none of those projects are going to be built. And this funding is necessary in order to bring those projects to the nation. And again, once complete, we'll have substantially built out the water delivery infrastructure the nation needs to meet the water supply demands of our population 100 years out. So it's certainly not going to take us 100 years to build the infrastructure, but it's going to take us time, just as it takes us time building any other water delivery infrastructure that we have undertaken here at the nation. So thank you.
Finish your statement, sir. President, I believe you're muted, sir.
There it is. Okay, cool. Thank you for the unmute. Appreciate that. I just want to say, apologize for that. I had to connect to my hotspot next to that new tower that was just installed next to a Veterans Park. So again, appreciate that. But what I wanted to say was that it's very important that we secure the water, as AG mentioned. We want as much as we can, the 44,700 acres. We want the underground water. We want to be able to secure that. We want to secure as much construction funding. And I think that on the external side, I think that's where really trying to make sure that the parties do line up, IHS, NTUA, the contractors, and all that work, the home site lease people. And I think that it's global water planning that we can really adjust and work towards to make sure that it does get done. Because I think that what's important is that we're going to be able to move water all around the Navajo Nation, whether it's Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. And that's what's important, because what's held us back in New Mexico has always been not being able to bring water across the border without this legislation being passed. And that's what's going to be great about it too, is we're going to be able to bring 6,400 extra acres across the border from New Mexico to here. So I think there's a lot of benefits that this legislation is going to impose. I think that one of the things that we got to continue to be mindful of is the big battle is really trying to make sure that we get this done this month, this year, so that we can actually have a say in what belongs to Navajo, what belongs to Hopi, and what belongs to Southern Paiute. And I think that's the global messaging that we're trying to present as well too. So again, thank you. And I don't know where I got cut off, but that's as much as I can remember. So thank you, Mahayo.
Awesome, President. Definitely appreciate that response. And just for everybody who's online and viewing, we have about 4 questions left. This question I'm going to go ahead and pose to Speaker Crystalline Curley first. And from there, we'll have any of our other leaders who want to answer it, go ahead and do that. But this question is from Arlissa Vicente with the Arizona Republic. Can you describe the urgency of pushing this through Congress before this session ends? So I'm going to go ahead and have Speaker Curley respond to that first. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa, Ms. Vicente, for that question. In terms of urgency, I always put this in a metaphor, just even on a way of thinking of our Navajo thinking of meaning in English translation that if there is something that is of great planning, many prayers have gone into it. The right timing and place will unfold. And within this opportunity, just through council, how it just passed with unanimous support and with President NYGREN'S signature, you could say that all of the elements, the struggles, the challenges all came to that opportunity into one day and 2 months ago. And this is that same opportunity now that our holy people are always with us and God is always with us, that this is the time and place now to have that security of water and having that our claims for all of our waters on Navajo Nation, including ground and underwater, the groundwater and then the surface water. So all of that combined, it is a blessing in itself that has gone this far. And with the team, with the leadership team, with past leadership urging the need for this to go forward, many of us do believe that this opportunity should have been presented 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 10 years ago. There was many times that we would have had this chance. However, we take on the blessings that the time that it presented itself to this year, and with the battle that we're going to face up on Capitol Hill, we have to tell our story that this is a bipartisan effort. This is a human rights effort. Human rights, being able to have the safe drinking water, is what we're always urging for. And within this Biden administration, we really just urge the administration to align their priorities with ours as well, and with Congress and with the senators, that this is not a one-sided party issue, that this is a bipartisan effort. And also, many of our Navajo communities to continue to stand beside us, and our people stand beside us. And even with the passage of the bill 2 months ago, many of our neighboring Indian country has stood beside us, and many have passed even within their own councils, within their own committees, have provided letters of support and also supporting resolution. So Indian country has been waiting for this effort from the Navajo Nation for many years as well. So we're really blessed to have a united front with all of our 3 tribes within northern Arizona, and also with all the delegation from the state of Arizona. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Speaker. And we're going to go ahead and have Attorney General Ethel Branch respond to that as well. Madam AG.
Sure. I think it is absolutely urgent at this moment. We have just the settlement negotiations themselves went very quickly, in part because of all of the institutional knowledge that was brought to the table by all of the parties, and then also just the strong leadership that exists at this moment, with President and Speaker and the delegates, particularly the ones who served on the negotiation team and were meeting with us on a weekly basis to help move forward the negotiations. And then just with respect to the political climate in the United States as a whole, the sooner we can get this done, the better. And then there's just sort of the ecological situation. As the molecules disappear, there's less water to settle for. So it's much better to lock in these rights now while that water is there, because what lies ahead is really discussions about how to address shortages. And we don't want to come to the table in that type of an environment asking for water that's not there at all. So it is vital that we secure these enforceable rights now, so that we can be equal players at the table, have those vested, perfected rights, just like everyone else. So it is critical that we move this through now. And of course, we have the strong leadership in the House and the Senate at this time as well. We have the bipartisan support from the Arizona delegation. And so, this is our moment. This has to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam AG. President?
I think Speaker Curley and Madam AG definitely reiterated the importance and the urgency of how soon this needs to get passed. I know that Speaker Curley, myself, and a few others made our rounds a couple of weeks ago. It was very positive. We met with a lot of the congressional delegations from Arizona and a few others that we ran into. And I think that they know about Navajo. And I think that a lot of the congressional delegations will want to do what's right. We've got thousands and thousands of Americans in Arizona without running water. And it's about time we get some water and infrastructure to Arizona citizens and U.S. citizens. And I think it's just due, especially with some of the climate stuff that we talk with them when we go up to Congress. We talk about the issues of uranium transportation, the lack of funding, the lack of a lot of the scenarios. But one of the things that they can help us deliver, which is essential for us to continue to exist on the reservation, is water. And I know that Speaker Curley and myself and a few others, we really reiterated that a couple of weeks ago. And we look forward to making some rounds over the next several weeks. And we hope that the hearings go well. And then from there, obviously, we've got a couple of months before votes do happen, but we're very ambitious. I know that with the current president, is very supportive. I think that he's been very supportive of Arizona, very supportive of Navajo and the Native American tribes. And I think that by having it being introduced by a House Republican and a Democrat senator, I think that we've got bipartisan support from the beginning. And we look forward to reaching out to, as mentioned earlier, to some of our friends and our relatives all across Indian country. We've got tribal members from Florida. You've got tribal members in Wisconsin, California. So we're going to try to put it on our tribal leaders to actually reach out to their congressional delegations and let them know, let's help our tribal nation, which is the Navajo Nation, to secure some water for those people that really need it. So again, that's all I got to add to the wonderful thoughts that Madam AG and Speaker Curley have already reiterated. So thank you.
Thank you, President. Thank you for that answer to that question. And next, we're going to go to a question from Gabrielle Petro-Razio, and they are from KGZZ. Gabrielle is a tribal natural resources reporter. The question that they are posing is, has the Arizona congressional delegation offered up any dates and or timeline to Navajo Nation leadership for when we should expect House and Senate votes on this settlement? And I'm going to go ahead and have Madam AG respond to this question. Madam AG.
Sure. Thanks, Mahayo. So we have hearings that are coming up in July, potentially. This is one thing that was vital in terms of the congressional timeline, is to make sure we had legislation introduced in time to participate in a House Natural Resources Committee hearing later this month on July 23rd. So we're very hopeful that we'll be able to participate in that hearing. And then these are essentially things that must happen for the legislation to move forward. We will have to have hearings in the House and the Senate. So we're in queue. We've well positioned ourselves to be part of that House Natural Resources Committee hearing. And then, the Senate, we're not sure what the Senate's timeline for a hearing will be, but we are hoping that there will be a hearing this month as well. And we're hoping to participate in that hearing. And again, we are well positioned for that. So tremendous thanks to Senator Kelly and Representative Ciscomani and their staff, as well as their co-sponsors, for moving this forward and getting us to where we are now. So those hearings must happen in order for the legislation to advance. Once it goes through those hearings, there will be markups in the House and the Senate. It's not clear exactly what that timeline will be. Congress will have their August recess, so we potentially could be looking at markups in September or October, and then we're looking at a vote before the end of the year. So potentially November, December. So that's what the timeline looks like, and we are very much looking for a vote this Congress. The elections are around the corner. And so we want to make sure that everyone that is in place now has an opportunity to vote on this legislation, because it's quite complex, and we want to make sure that everyone is up to speed. We don't lose any time, and of course we lock in these rights as soon as possible and are able to put to rest our litigation with respect to the LCR. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam AG. I'm going to go ahead and go on to our next question. Our next question is from Krista Allen again. And this question is in regards to infrastructure as well. Krista asks, We here at the Navajo Times believe that NTUA won't be able to build the necessary infrastructure in a timely manner. We understand too that NECA, perhaps even IHS, will assist the tribe's utility company build the water pipelines to all parts of Dinetra. That said, perhaps it may be too early to be asking, but we also feel NTUA, IHS, and NECA have been planning for this possibility. What will the proposed $5 billion pay for, and how much will the tribe be contributing to expedite the development? So I'm going to go with that part of the question first. Can we have anybody who would like to respond to that question? President Nygren.
I think that's again, I think this speaks to one of the first questions about capacity. I know that when we secure a lot of these dollars and these funding, especially trying to build out those capacities to make sure that we actually get projects done. And I know that NTUA and NECA and IHS definitely, with IHS being fully funded with some of the work that they're doing, that they're really trying to make sure that they reach out to not only Navajo engineers, but other engineering companies in addition to IHS and in addition to NECA, to really try to build out these water infrastructure projects. So I think that at this moment in time, they're really collaborating, they're working together to try to at least work with that current load. And then I think that by the time, my estimation is by the time that these projects are live and ready to go, that they will have figured this out, because it's going to take all the effort. It's not just going to take NTUA. It's not just going to take NECA or IHS. It's going to take a lot of our partners that are going to have to come out and help us build a lot of these projects, because it is very when it comes to building out on the reservation, it's a lot more difficult to build on Navajo than anywhere else. But it's exciting to see these discussions that we're having. And I know that the 9 or 8 projects that I listed off earlier, starting with the Western to the possible wells that could possibly be looked into, I think all those are great projects. I think that when the work is done, and when work is done in Congress, and that it's made it official that we've got $5 billion and we've got so many acre feet of water that belongs to Navajo, it's going to be up to us to make sure that we work with our partners, our federal partners. And then there's going to be cases where we got to look into how do we make it a lot easier to transcend the reservation so that we can get water out to people that really need it. Because again, this forum is not to discuss about some of the challenges that we have on Navajo internally, but there's scenarios where people block, scenarios where people they need running water, but our own relatives sometimes deny some of those things. But again, that's not why we're here, but we're really here excited to really make sure that we secure as much water for the future, the generations that are yet to be born, and then that future leaders can really implement the dollars that we're seeking. So again, that's kind of my response. I think that my hope is that NTUA, IHS, and NECA will continue to work with outside partners to really implement and perfect the system so that water infrastructure can be built globally across the nation. Because there's times when you need pump stations to pump water because sometimes the pressure is not good there. But again, a lot of these efforts, especially what the nation's doing, I think the Navajo Nation Council recently, and with my signature as well, we approved over $130 million in water treatment plants in some of the larger communities like Tuba City, Kayenta, Shiprock, Ganado, and Chinle as well, because the nation's serious about making sure that we expand a lot of our own communities, and that starts with water treatment plants. So again, I think that we're building the necessary infrastructure as well, and the water that's going to be brought on to the nation through this effort is going to be tremendous as well too. So again, thank you.
Thank you, President. Madam AG.
Oh, sure. I think Speaker was going to say something. I can
Yeah,
follow
Speaker was next. I thought that you raised your hand. Sorry. I'm going to go to Speaker Crystalline Curley to respond to this question. Speaker.
Thank you, Mahayo, and thank you for that question, Krista. I think one key term that we need to keep in mind when we're going after such a huge amount of dollars is collaboration and partnership. Through the settlements with the New Mexico water rights, you can see through the product at the end product of the Gallup water pipeline is a prime example, and being able to see how to expedite it. There are lesson learned from that project, and just using those lessons learned from previous projects, even within terms of our own investment into water project, what were some of the, the challenges that we had. And, within this part of the 25th Navajo Nation Council has been really monitoring those challenges and how policy changes, and those all took into account with the water rights negotiation team, which comprise of the delegates and also the executive departments that deal with these.
I'm sorry. It looks like Madam Speaker cut out. She will we'll get her back on to respond to that question. Looks like she's backstage. Could we have her added back into the onto the live stream? But yes, Madam Speaker is there. Forgive us for our technical difficulties. We run into these things, but go ahead, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Sorry, I think I got kicked off into the backstage, but all is good. But in terms of just the lessons learned from previous water infrastructure projects, such as the Gallup water pipeline, those are some of the current things that the team has been looking at for the past year. And within this water rights settlement, it did alleviate some of those challenges that we've foreseen in previous water settlements. So this is very unique water settlement, and in terms of the $5 billion, in terms of giving some of the claims of our water, that is what we are asking in return. I think there's also a difference between settlement and litigation, and the Navajo Nation tribe, along with the 3 other tribes, saw that the settlement is the best option for our people. Just due to the the maximum water quality that we are asking for. And at the end of the day, when we get the final approval from Congress and also from President Biden, a $5 billion problem would be great for the Navajo Nation. And then that is time for us as administrators, as leaders, our future leaders, if we have to do those projects in phases in 5 years or 6 years or 7 years, those are some of the starting plannings that we already have drafted and working towards too. But at the end of the day, it would have to take a lot of partnership and collaboration. And so thank you for that question again.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We're going to kind of just keep rolling along here. I know we have we have about 2 more questions left, and we'd like to have our leaders go ahead and weigh in on these questions that are being posed by our press and media. This next question is again from Gabrielle from KJZZ. In this question, he asks, does the Navajo Nation, NNDOJ, Navajo Nation Department of Justice, or Navajo Nation Washington office foresee any political obstacles on Capitol Hill when it comes to passing this historic settlement in Congress? And I'm going to go to Madam AG. Madam AG?
Sure. I mean, our greatest challenge really is timing, right? We really had hoped to have the settlement drop in Congress in March to give ourselves a little more of a window to move through the different committees and markup and whatnot. So, that's our biggest challenge right now. We have open lines of communication with other folks in the basin, and so we're continuing to navigate things as we go, and so that it's going to be challenging. This is a tremendous settlement. It relates to 1/4 of Indian lands in this country. It's the largest Indian water rights settlement ever. And so it's going to be challenging, but we have an incredible team, incredible leadership, incredible commitment by our leaders. And so I have full confidence that we're going to be successful. So thank you for your question, Gabriel.
Awesome. Thank you, Madam AG. And I'm going to go ahead and go to Speaker Curley.
Thank you, Mahayo, and thank you again for that question. When we're looking at a very tight time frame that we're working with versus the hearings that we would have to provide testimony to, just reviewing the process and also the overall need of water infrastructure through the nation. And then the next step is the markups, and towards the end of the year, it's going to be a fast-paced movement. And as leadership and the 25th Navajo Nation Council, along with President NYGREN and Vice President Montoya, we have to set this as a priority because many of our 110 communities provided a lot of feedback, a lot of personal testimonies from our own constituents for this legislation to go forward. And it's just the time and dedication and commitment that it has to take from all tribal leadership, along with different partnerships with our state leadership, our nearby Congress people, and also our senators, and just all leadership across nationwide throughout Indian country, just being at this united front. And there will be challenges, and this being the biggest water rights settlements in history. But we also have to put our voice louder and tell our stories from our grandparents, our ancestors, of how long this fight has taken. And reiterating that there's still many of our families that haul water. There's still many of our families that can't even turn on a faucet. And even some do have plumbing, but being able to turn on a clean, clear water, is something, that a story that we have to continuously tell that story and educate our congressional leaders. And, Navajo Nation Council, we, took on some of the challenges that will be foreseen, but we just have to stay united to tell our story.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to go ahead and let President Dr. Boo Nygren respond to this question as well. President?
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Madam AG. And I think one of the key themes I think about when advocating over the next several months is just how far Navajo has come along the way, because we had an all Navajo team that really pushed this across the table. So, and that within itself was very historic. You've got the speaker, you've got myself, you've got a lot of council delegates that are very passionate about securing water. And there's a lot of leadership that's very diplomatic, because a lot of the things I see, it's an advantage for us as leaders now is that what we care about is water, because that's a non-partisan issue, is really trying to make sure that the First Americans, the Navajo, the Hopi, the Southern Paiute, and we continue to tell that story. And I think that just to get a glimpse of some of the aspects of a couple of weeks ago when we made our rounds is very positive. I know that with Speaker's leadership and her guiding the council on that, on the legislative branch, and the efforts on that we have on the executive branch, that we're going to really put our best foot forward and be as diplomatic as possible, because this is about life. This is about the future. This is about our children. This is about kids that have yet to be born. And we got to tell the story of how much we've gone through, the pain, the struggle that people continue to go through, and that they can be a part of history by bringing about solving some of these decades-long challenges. So I know we've got the right team, and I know that we've got several months, and we're going to definitely put a united front to make sure that when we're out in DC, we're united, we're collaborating, we're making sure that we've got each other's backs, because that's what it's going to take. So again, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, President, and appreciate everybody for staying online and watching, and we appreciate all the press and the media who have participated, and our leaders and our council delegates who have participated today. We have one last question that has been asked, and this is from Noelle Smith again. This question, in this question, she asks, how are the tribes advocating for congressional support of the bill? Why should a congressional member from a state like Florida or South Carolina care about the southwestern tribes like Navajo, Hopi, or the Southern Paiute, their access to water in the West? And so if any of our leaders, or if Madam AG would like to respond to this, I'll go to whoever would like. Okay. Oh, sorry. Madam AG.
Sure. I mean, I think we're all five-fingered people, right? And during the pandemic, when the nation really needed help and people saw the impact that not having access to water in your home could have, people stepped forward, and they, from all over, not only all over the United States, but all over the world. This is a basic human right to have access to clean drinking water. And we're all Americans. when it comes to folks in Florida or South Carolina. And I think people just don't realize that there's this huge equity gap that, that some of our first peoples on this continent, in this country, still don't have equal access to clean drinking water in their homes. I would like to think that there's, an aspect of humanity to this, and that people care about preserving human life, particularly among their fellow citizenry. And so I think that's one fundamental important reason why we will see unified support across the board for our water settlement. A lot of the water settlements in the past, there are about 35 water settlements that have gone through Congress to date. Very few of them were really about getting water to people. And at Navajo Nation, that's the primary purpose, is to get water to people, to get drinking water to actual living, breathing people. We're talking about 110,000 Navajo people in Arizona. We're not talking about huge agricultural projects. We're not talking about, securing water rights to be able to lease and gain lease revenue. We're talking about getting water to grandmas. We're talking about getting water to children, and to giving those people an equal opportunity to life and health and welfare in our Arizona communities. So I think that is compelling.
Thank you, Madam AG. I'm going to go ahead and give some time to Navajo Nation President Dr. Bu Nygren. President.
Biga he horo kehen gilini do the ase yego shitille horo thoba na hat enigi te neba ka do wol to thodar dot se nenegi hu igent den yet so that the zinda khalet all the dilni khalet all the kinal kere ye ho one day one at and the shladin ha zogi the nebenant an khan sid do keso thun kich ho do nil khat nenegi eshi be da di nil so banses kes hu igent masan can chedon hikedan lengi thadetin shin de nesachi zedo so the zin yen na de aigi ebe nasko nane khatale twinzen aita peshwas and the quigo shim aita baspada hausen shishles anigi dogati ahi sohigi be eshin jgono be that il nilin sobanses case eshi a kere be hades to shi hodo anit ene tene benant adanit lengi do the nebenet khada de kaigi don khandaz neshigi Njono betrata holtzedon jronon seda kesto tabedist to le queen zon shi ebe nasko hodo nil hona hot ehshin lahot oban sede kesto ebe a hehen gedini do le hodo de nebenant Dr. Bu Nygren a hehen gedini do le to hona hot en jrono tonkich hodo nil to be his ani adot nil so ban sis case ebe a hehen do gonen gedini do le
President. I'm going to go ahead and go to Madam Speaker Crystalline Curley. Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mahayo, and thank you for that question as well. When we talk about access to clean water, we're talking about just the basic human rights that our people deserve. And throughout Indian country, there has been a high movement of outpouring support from all of the tribes. And just recently, even the coalition of large tribes reached out to the Navajo Nation and passed a supporting resolution. So when we're looking at states like Florida and South Carolina, there's many of our relatives and our people that live within those states, and even our neighboring tribes. And, there's a collective effort that we have never seen before, being able to talk about access to clean water. And this opens a lot of topics too. Many tribes came out forward to us saying that we want the same thing. How can we partner up together in terms of not only water infrastructure, but for roads, for economic development, and for public safety. So this opens up a lot of new doors, and this opportunity, having that basic infrastructure of how, within 100 years is going to be amazing to see what the Navajo Nation will be like in that time for our grandchildren. And as mentioned before, our settlement highly recognizes delivering safe drinking water to our people throughout the Navajo Nation. When looking at the settlement, there are outlines of different projects that are in the settlement. I'm just going to go down the line to review some of those projects that are going to be secured with this settlement. There is the Inampa and Pasawati pipeline. Hopefully I said that correct in Hopi. And secondly, the Southwest Navajo Regional Project, the Ganado Area Project, the Kotokoro Lateral, the Black Mesa Project, the Four Corners Project, the Kienta Area Project, and also the Lupton Area Project and the local groundwater projects. This is going to be a massive overall water delivery infrastructure projects throughout the Navajo Nation. Once we secure the votes from congressional leaders, from the Senate, and then from President Biden, it is an uphill battle, but through the prayers of, being able of harmony and just the positivity of what is needed out in our Navajo community is what is going to carry us forward. And being united as leadership and as chapter governments, and just even with individual Navajo households, we have to stay united within this effort. It's going to take a lot of hard work, but for us Navajo people, hard work is nothing new to us. We constantly, on a daily basis, go against many of the modern monsters that we fight every day, and being able to secure something for our future for our children, our grandchildren, is worth the fight. And being able to stand together with the administration, with the 25th Navajo Nation Council, our staff, our Navajo attorneys, is something that we have been craving for as Navajo people, is being able to work together and to move something that is beyond us, something that will be for the next 100 years, is something that is very special. So in terms of my requests for our people is, let's stay together, let's continue to stay positive, let's work together, and providing leadership that this will go the way that we wish and hope for, because these are just requests and prayers of our ancestors from a long time ago, from our Chays or from our Masanes, and for all of our spiritual leaders, our Hatahlis. These are what is within our prayers, our songs, our Navajo songs on it has the incorporation of water, and being able to take care of Mother Earth in that way is something that that we foresee. And again, we just urge Congress and our federal leaders to align with us and to fight for something that is rightfully ours from the beginning, and being able to combat a lot of these challenges that we're facing today. But overall, this is for our children and our grandchildren. So and being able to make sure that this legislation, that this bill goes all the way to the finish line, and being able to reunite again, and to take on a lot of these modern day monsters as we go forward. So again, thank you to all of our Navajo citizens for your continued support. Thank you for listening to all of our radio forums, attending over 40 public education sessions throughout the whole 110, almost throughout the whole 110 chapters. It was a great effort to see, and finally seeing it get to DC level is something that is a celebration in itself. But let's just continue to pray for each other, and let's work. We're ready for this hard work and long journey ahead. But thank you again for the opportunities to allow me to speak during this press conference.
Thank you, everybody. I'd like to thank all of our leaders for being here today. Madam Attorney General Ethel Branch. I'd like to also thank the Speaker of the Navajo Nation, Crystal Curley, for joining us. And I'd also like to thank Navajo Nation President Dr. Boo Nygren for being here with us today. And as you guys as everyone who's joined can see, this settlement is very important and is very critical to the livelihood of the Navajo Nation and its people. Our leaders discussed the infrastructure and how it will contribute to improving public safety, economic development, healthcare, education, and all of these other areas on the Navajo Nation that are supported through water infrastructure. As we're here today, we're reminded that we are here based on the prayers of our ancestors and our former leaders who have prayed for our people to prosper and to be successful. And we ask all of our tribal members across the nation, across the Navajo Nation and the United States, to offer their prayers for this legislation to be passed successfully. As Navajo people and as tribal people, we all rely on our prayers and how we communicate with our God and the Creator. And at this time, we're just asking for prayers for all of our Navajo people to help support and get this legislation passed successfully. So again, thank you guys for joining us, and we're going to go ahead and end our press conference here.